Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. After having recognized the importance of the Yoga Shastra, now the next topic that we'll talk is regarding the commentators on the Yoga Sutras. So, the most important and the fundamental commentary is that of Vyasa. So, Yoga Bhashyakar Vyasa. Now, about this Vyasa, whose Bhashya is considered as extremely important, and all other subsequent commentaries are nothing but the different standpoints of this main Bhashya, and therefore this is called as either Yoga Bhashya or the Vyasa Bhashya or Patanjali Bhashya or the Sankhya Pravachana Bhashya. And in this, the last one, Sankhya Pravachana Bhashya, is worthy of recognition, because this particular name clearly brings out two important principles. One is the Sankhya, the philosophy behind the total Yoga Shastra, and therefore this is extremely important. However, Vyasji has not added anywhere his name, and this is recognized by the subsequent commentators. Now, in this Vyasa Bhashya, the one aspect is Tattvajnana, the essence, the principle, the philosophy, and the second aspect is the Yoga Shastra. How this Tattvajnana, this principle can be experienced by us, and what is the method of practicing this knowledge. The one is the science, and second is the technology. So, there are three levels at which this Yoga Bhashya is to be studied. First is, what are the means of attainment of this knowledge? So, first is the knowledge. Then second thing comes, what is the attainment of knowledge? How do we attain? And for that, we are told the 8 limbs, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So, this is one aspect of the Yoga Bhashya and the Yoga Sutra. Now, the second one is, that when one has gone through the discipline of Yoga Abhyasa through these 8 limbs, then one is able to attain the Tattvajnana. Then we are able to recognize what is the meaning of Purusha and the Prakriti, and how they are clearly, distinctly recognized. This is called as the Samprajnaya Samadhi or Samprajnaya Yoga. Here, there is no doubt whatsoever left. This is the Samprajnaya Yoga. According to this Kundalini Yoga, the Samprajnaya Yoga is when the Samadhi or the Siddha Purusha is abiding in the Vishuddha Chakra. Here there is no ego as it is. However, the knowledge is in the form of the thought. This is the Samprajnaya third. Now the last one is, the third one is the one where we transcend even this Tattvajnana. We are no more limiting ourselves into the understanding, recognition through the agency of thoughts. So, the last one is the Asamprajnata Yoga, where the thought-free direct experience of being is attained. So, which are these three things? Now, make it very clear to you. First is the knowledge is gained only by a discipline seeker. Now, what is the discipline for getting the knowledge? The 8 limbs, Yama, Niyama, etc. Second thing, When the knowledge is gained, that state is called as the Samprajnaya Samadhi or Samprajnaya Yoga, where the seeker is predominantly sattvic. There is a virtual absence of the rajas and the tamas, and he is able to very clearly, distinctly recognize the difference between Purusha and the Prakriti. That is the second stage. And the third stage is, this recognition was in the second stage through the agency of sattvic vritti, the sattvic thought. Now that also is transcended, and one comes to abide in one's own essential pure conscious self, what Vedanta calls as Brahmatmaikya Bodha. So these are the three things. And these three things are very beautifully, systematically, methodically brought out by Veda Vyasa in his Bhashya, Sankhya Pravachana Bhashya. Here he has given the etymology, Purochate Anena iti Pravachan. What is the Pravachan? Pravachan is that by which the things are made clear for the listener. So, Pravachanam. Then, Sankhyasya Pravachanam iti Sankhya Pravachanam. Now, this is the topic is the Sankhya, therefore Sankhya Pravachanam. Then, Sankhya Pravachanancha Tad Bhashyancha iti Sankhya Pravachana Bhashyam. And this is in the form of the commentary, therefore, this is called as the Sankhya Pravachana Bhashya. In this manner, every sutra in this Patanjali Yoga Darshan is expounded very exhaustively and with all details. And wherever there is a need for the arguments or logic, that is also used. However, there are two views. Some people say that this Bhashya is not the original Bhashya of Bhagavan Veda Vyasa, because the language is not very good. But the other people say, no, this is not the thing, because this Bhashya is complete, exhaustive, so we don't have to bother for the language. And therefore, they accept, such as the Vachaspati Mishra, Vijnana Bhikshu, Bhasvatikar. These are the great Acharya of Yoga Parampara, and they have tremendous reverence and regard for this Bhashya. Now another question is raised. This Veda Vyasa Bhashya, who is this Veda Vyasa? Is he the one who has composed the Mahabharata? Is he the one who has written or compiled 4 Vedas? Or he is the one who has written the Brahma Sutras? So there are 2 Vyasas. One is the one to whom Mahabharata is attributed, Veda compilation is attributed, and the other is the Badarayani Vyas. So first is Krishna Dvaipayan, and second is Badarayani. Now, according to the various schools of thought, they say that these 2 were different people. They were not the same person. But according to the Shraddha, according to the faith, the tradition, it is accepted that the one who has composed Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, etc., the one who has given the knowledge regarding the Brahma Sutras, he is one and the same. They are not different. And this helps us in understanding. So, whatever is the view, our interest is that we should follow this Vyasa Bhashya, because it is extremely exhaustive and wonderful. Now, when this Yoga Bhashya was composed, there are many arguments, logic, and we come to a conclusion that we can safely say that in the 2nd century after AD, 2nd century AD, that this Vyasa Bhashya was composed, and it is extremely wonderful for us to study. Now, on this Patanjali Yoga Shastra, there are many more commentaries also. So, Vyasa Bhashya is the foundation. but there are many more. Which are those? First is the commentary written by Vachaspati Mishra. He was a Bihari living in Mithila, and he was one of the most intelligent and the most well-informed, learned, wise man of his time, and he has written the Tattva Vaisharadi Tika on this Patanjali Yoga Shastra. Similarly, there is another one which is Raja Martanda Vritti, written by the Bhojaraj in the 11th century. Then Yoga Vartik was written in the 16th century by Vijnana Bhikshu. This Yoga Vartik is one of the most respected and authentic commentary on Yoga Sutras. And then there are many more, like in the 17th, there was one disciple of Vijnana Bhikshu, Bhava Ganesh, and in the same 17th century also Nagoji Bhatta, he has written the Chaya. In the 18th, the Ramananda Yati has written the Maniprabha, and Narayan Tirtha has written the Sutrartha Bodhini or Yoga Darshan. In this manner, there are many commentaries on these Yoga Sutras. And the study of these commentaries, Yoga Sutras, definitely help us in recognizing how much important this text is. See, the value and the importance of a thing is recognized by how many people give attention to it. For example, Bhagavad Gita. Now, Bhagavad Gita is the only book in the world which is commented upon maximum. One is the free distribution. Free distribution is done like that of the Bible. But it is not commented upon. The commentary is on Bhagavad Gita in thousands, because it is the most important text. Similarly, here also we come across many commentaries of many great people, and therefore this is the most important text to be studied. Now we come to the next topic. What is the principal doctrine of the Yoga Sutras or the Yoga Shastra? So the principal doctrine of yoga, to understand, here we are told that this yoga shabda, this word yoga, is result of modification in the original root yuja, and the pratyay added is ghai. When ghai pratyay is added, the root is converted into a masculine noun. So yuj becomes yoga, and yoga is the masculine noun. So there are three places that this yuja dhatu or the root comes. First is comes in the divadi ganiya dhatu, where yuja samadhau, where the meaning of the root yuja is samadhi. Again it comes in the rudadi ganiya ubhaypadi dhatu, where the meaning is yujira yoge, union, togetherness. And the third yuja in the 10th conjugation, it comes and it is called as yuja sayyamane, control. And in this manner, this same word yoga has been used in different philosophies with the different meanings. So, which are the different philosophies where this yoga word is used in different manner? The first one is the what do you call, the Nyaya Shastra or the Vaisheshika Shastra, wherein they talk about union between the mind and the Atma, the self, and therefore when they use the word yuja, they means the original root yujira, yoge, and this is how they use the word yoga to indicate when the Atma and the mind come together, life begins and subsequent things. So here they use the word from the rudadi ganiya ubhayapadi dhatu, which means joining together. Now the second meaning is used by the devotees, the Vedantis, who ultimately want to establish and experience oneness between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. So this oneness between the Jivatma and the Paramatma is attained And for that, this dhatu yujra is yoga. Yujra, union. So coming together. Here also, the dhatu yujra is to be used. Now, our yogi Yajnavalkya also writes, Sanyogo yoga ityuktaha jivatma paramatmanoho. So, jivatma paramatmanoho sanyogaha yogaha uktaha. The oneness between or the merging of the jivatma in the paramatma is called as the yoga. Now, according to our Patanjali Maharshi, yoga is of the different nature. And this is recognized by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. What is the yoga? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. This is the definition of Patanjali. So in this word yoga is attained from the divadi ganiya atmane padi dhatu yuja samadhau. So here the word yuja is the root and ghaya pratyay becomes yoga. And therefore yuja samadhau, this is the original root. Now, the other meaning, yujira yoge, cannot be used in our Patanjali Yoga Darshan. Why? Because when the chitta vritti nirodha takes place, you are not joining with anybody. See? You join with the world through the medium of thoughts. And when the thoughts are totally suspended, you don't join with anybody. On the contrary, there is a viyoga. Isn't it? And this is how it is said, this yoga shabda, this sound word yoga is not to indicate the oneness with the other, but the separation from the other and discovering the oneness. And this is how Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, tam vidya dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sannitam. So yoga is disunion from the misery is called as the yoga. And this is how this yoga is used in a totally opposite meaning by Patanjali. This one particular commentary writes about Patanjali Muni very beautifully. Patanjali Mune Ruktihi Kapya Purva Jayatyasau Pum Prakrutyor Viyogopi Yoga Chiktato Jaya. Kapi Apurva. What a great wonder it is. What wonder? Patanjali Munehe Uktihi. What is demonstrated, said by the Patanjali Rishi is really unparalleled. It is unique. And may it grow, glorified or held to this great statement. Why? What is the greatness? Pum Prakrutyoho Viyogaha Api. In this yoga, Purusha and the Prakriti, they are separated. So they are viyoga. So viyogaha api yoga iti uditaha. And it is called as the yoga. Therefore, the explanation given by Patanjali Maharshi through the word yoga is not the union, but it is the disunion between the Purusha and the Prakriti. After having thus come to the conclusion that Patanjali Maharshi means yoga means samadhi or chitta vritti nirodha. Now this chitta vritti nirodha, can we say any chitta vritti nirodha is yoga? See? When we are in deep sleep, chitta vritti nirodha. When we are under the anesthesia, chitta vritti nirodha. When we are hit by somebody, we become stunned, chitta vritti nirodha. When there is extreme, excruciating pain, that time the mind becomes stunned. So can we call that any chitta vritti nirodha, any condition where the thought process is suspended as yoga, so this is denied. It cannot be called that any thought suspension is yoga, and because of not understanding this, many people take to drink scented drugs. One day, I happened to meet one Mahatma and he told me. He said, Swamiji, this particular boy, disciple, he can really sit in Samadhi for 6 hours, 8 hours long time. And They are regular consumers because they are following the Aghora Pantha. So they are the followers of these taking the ganja and the drinks and everything. And he can be in that one samadhi for 5, 6, 8 hours. Now the question is, only suspension of the thought is the samadhi or what? This is to be investigated. And therefore when Patanjali Maharshi says Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga, so we may mistake that only take the booze or take the drugs or drinks and go to sleep and you are in yoga. No. And therefore, here if you see the sequence, first is Atha Yoganushāsanam, then Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodha, and the third, Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam, means that Chitta Vritti Nirodha which will lead the seeker to discover his essential self, that is called as the Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga. Therefore, the Chitta Vritti Nirodha without the discrimination of the self and the not self cannot be called as the yoga. It is only the stunning. And therefore, we cannot say that any Chitta Vritti Nirodha will not lead to liberation. And that is why one has to understand that Chitta Vritti Nirodha alone is not yoga, but that Chitta Vritti Nirodha which will not take us to the realization is only the samadhi. It is not the yoga. So what is the difference between samadhi and the yoga? Samadhi is in the upadhi. See? Make these points clear. These are basic things to be understood. When they are not understood, we use the word very loosely and then get lost. Samadhi, like we have got Jagrat, Sapna, Sushupti, they belong to the conditioning of the mind, Antakaran. Similarly, Samadhi also belong to them. See? Jagrat Avastha, waking state predominantly Buddhi Pradhan. Swapnavastha is Mana Pradhan. Sushupti Avastha is Ahankar Pradhan. And Samadhi is Chitta Pradhan. Therefore, every yoga must be a samadhi, but every samadhi must not be a yoga. Now what is the difference between the two? That samadhi which is supporting and helping the seeker to discover his own essential self, that samadhi is called as yoga. And that samadhi which does not help the seeker to discover his own self. Why? Because the seeker has not thought over, he has no studies of the Purusha Prakriti Viveka, he has not understood the complete Tattva Vivechana, and only by mechanical suspension of the thoughts he has attained samadhi. So he cannot be called as a yogi. Now to make this point, let us understand this way. The other day I was in Bits Pilani, and they have prepared one of my khadao, wooden sandal, for me. So that wooden sandal was prepared by that carpenter. Now he is also an employee. And their boss is somebody. Now he simply told and do, but he cannot do all that. Taking the things and cutting and polishing, he cannot do that. Although he knows, but he is the boss. Now what is the difference between the two? This fellow knows only the mechanical understanding. And the boss who is guiding students in doctorate on various aspects of creation, various aspects of the physics, various aspects of the different designs. Now his understanding is different. And this particular carpenter who does his job so beautifully, meticulously perfect. So when you see at a superficial level, we will say this carpenter is better than this. Naturally, he knows only that, nothing beyond it. So similarly, Samadhi is only suspension of the thought process, but it has nothing to do with the yoga. Yoga is when the Samadhi is able to lead us to our essential nature, then that Samadhi is called as the yoga. Therefore, this Samadhi should not be glorified beyond proportion. I remember there was one person, very nice, sincere man, and he had this thing in his head. So he has studied a lot, read a lot, and leads also a very nice, pure life. Although he is in a very big position, yet he goes to his hospital as the head of the institution with the khadao, puts on the, the kafni, and has grown the dadi and all that. All the symptoms of spirituality. And this thing has gone in his head. I want to have Samadhi. So he was continuously after me. And one day I said, sit down. I said, tell me, Samadhi will begin in time. He said, now you are in not Samadhi? No. It will begin. How long will you sit? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years. But you remember one thing, this is only the condition of the mind. Like Jagra, Sapna, Sushupti, so is the Samadhi. What are you going to get out of it? But then everybody is, glorifying Samadhi. I say, yes, they are glorifying. If I am selling the cow dung, I will glorify cow dung. Don't drink milk. Take a cow dung water bath. You will get more benefit from the cow dung than from the milk, because I had to market. That is not the criteria. Then I said, you first find out who you are. Therefore, unless the discrimination is perfect, the Samadhi is only a mechanical application of the brake. At the moment you apply the brake, again the mind runs out. Now, refer to our Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, Prana Bandhanat Liyamanasam, Eka Bandhanat, Eka Chintanat, Nashametyadau. So when these, by the force of pranayama, etc., you make your mind go back to the cause, and that we call as Samadhi, it is not a great thing, it will again come. And therefore, we have to recognize that this Samadhi can be called as yoga under specific conditions. Which are those two conditions? One is Samprajnayat Samadhi and second is Asamprajnayat Samadhi. Now what is the meaning of Samprajnayat Samadhi? See, Samprajnayat Samadhi is before that, let us try to understand what we do in the control of the mind. Sayyam we understand, isn't it? Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, Tayam Ekatra, Sayyama. When we are doing Asam, so what is the Asam? Asam is training the body to remain in a particular posture without any painful experience for a long period of time is Sthira Sukham Asana. Okay. That is the training of the body. Then we do the pranayam. Now training to the prana. Is it not? Now the third, mind. Samadhi is nothing but training of the mind, by which you train the mind not to allow any thoughts to be erupted. But that does not mean there are no seeds for the thoughts. The samskar are there. The impressions are there. And those impressions, unless they are removed, they are completely erased, we will continue to again let those samskar come, and again we come back to the relative existence, and again the same thing begins. And therefore, this Samadhi is nothing but a well-trained discipline of the mind is Samadhi. It is something like, there are people who have trained their dog to be disciplined. In one ashram, one Angrez went and he had a dog with him. So he told the dog, sit here. Don't go out anywhere. So he sat there. Now this fellow went inside, saw the Mahatma and came after 2 hours, 3 hours. Till then he was simply sitting there. Anybody gives him anything to eat, he will not eat. So this was told to the Mahatma. See that dog, 3 hours sitting there, not going here and there, not eating anything, not doing anything. How disciplined? So that discipline of the dog is not yoga. It is just a training. See? Therefore, we should be very clear that if we are able to hold our mind, it's not something great. Don't think it is when something great is achieved. It is great, no doubt, but that is not ultimate. And this is where most of us get lost. That, the mind is running too much, I don't know what I should do. The other day in New Zealand probably, one person came and he said, very sincere seeker, he said, Swamiji, I have been practicing this and I go to so many meditation camps. Then he was referring to one where they do this, forceful meditation through pranayama. So they will do bhastrika. And after that they will do the different types of pranayama. And because of this forcefulness, the mind is quietened, the toxins are thrown out, and suddenly you feel extremely light and But it is something like taking a shot. You take a pill or you take a shot and you are in the seventh heaven. But how long? Till that is operating. After that, again come back to again the same disgusting existence begins. And then he said, yesterday you taught us meditation starting from body, and first of all for about 60-70 minutes you have spent in explaining everything to us. Then we had a tea break, and then we sat for about an hour or more, and after that was over, till now, the next day after 24 hours he came. He said, what experience I had yesterday is still continuing. I don't feel that the experience is gone and I am becoming again down in spirit. So I told him, I said, look here, don't get carried away by this. This is only a training of the mind. What is important is understanding. Doing something through training is being a technician, and doing something through understanding is being a scientist. See, a scientist may not be able to draw a proper design of a particular machine. He may not have a good handwriting, he may not have a proper, way of drawing the things. But an artist or a draftsman, he will do it so beautifully well. But between the two, who is great? The one who has got the understanding and not the mechanical one. And therefore, this Samadhi is nothing but it is a training to the mind. So with that training, we attained this Trayamekatra Sayyamaha. And therefore, many people are very enchanted by this. They will do the Tratak. In the Tratak, what we do? We practice in one place, we fix the mind. So Dharana. Then on one object, the flame, we fix the mind, Dhyana. And then we practice for a long period of time, Samadhi. So Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, all these three things are practiced. You keep an object, a lamp or something, and keep on doing the Dharana. Now what is happening? Slowly, slowly, that mind is trained not to move or go anywhere. When you remain in that, the natural condition of the mind, oscillations, disturbances, excitement, depression, that is erased for the time being. And we start imagining, aha, now I am progressing spiritually. No. So make it clear. You must have seen, many people have this notion. For the first time when they come on this line, they call it, the path of spirituality. Like many people ask us, Swamiji, when did you come on this line? So, their beginning is like what? Now, I don't eat non-vegetarian every day. Spiritual practice. Because he was only eating non-vegetarian every now and then. So his spiritual practice is what? Now I reduce the quantity. Second thing is, now I smoke only after lunch and dinner. That means earlier it was Agnihotra, Akhanda Agnihotra going on. But now he has stopped. The third one says, now I have started getting up early in the morning, 8 o'clock I get up. So earlier, it used to be 10, 11 o'clock. So this is how our understanding about the spiritual practice or yoga abhyas depends on where we are caught up. Now we are caught up where? In the agitations, disturbance of the mind. So for us, what is yoga? Yena kena prakarena, by whatever means, if we are able to hold the mind. That is why, if you remember in our meditation class, I have never supported and allowed you to hold the breath. When you hold the breath, mind will stop. But that is not the way. How long will you hold it? Again it will start running. And therefore, we have to have the clear understanding. So only Samadhi is not something great, it is only the disciplining. And Yoga Abhyas is directed on the chitta, the mind. So, yama, then niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, they have nothing to do with the mind. So, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, and in this, when the samadhi is without understanding, it is a jada samadhi. When it is with the understanding, it becomes Samprajnayat Samadhi. And therefore, here the topic goes like this. Everything in this world is the expression of the Trigunatmika Prakriti according to Sankhya Shastra. Because Sankhya talks about Purusha Prakriti. So, Tribhir Gudamaye Bhavaihi Ebhi Sarvajagam Mohitam. So this whole world, all these objective world is the expression of this Trigunatmika Prakriti. And therefore, our mind also has got the three types of thoughts, Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Because mind is also the effect or the karya modification of the Prakriti. Now, this mind which is with these three kinds of influences, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, it has got 5 types of expressions. And those 5 types of expressions are, the chitta is either kshipta, mudha, vikshipta, or it is ekagra and niruddha. These are the 5 of them. So, what is the meaning of, we will take this in very detail when we come to those bhashyas. Here we can know this much only. Kshipta means what? Kshipta means the one which is thrown. So it runs here and there without any control, without any meaning. It just keeps on running. What we can call in our Vedantic language as manorajya. That is the kshipta chitta. Now second is the mudha chitta. The mudha bhumika is what? Wherein the chitta, the mind is absolutely dull-witted. You are neither sleeping, you are not awake, you don't want to do anything, and somehow dragging. That is called as the mood chitta. So kshipta chitta is under the influence of rajoguna, mood chitta is under the influence of tamoguna. And the third is vikshipta. Vikshipta means what? The chitta is obsessed with some particular type of theme. It's called vikshipta. Visheshena kshipta. First is kshipta, generally kshipta. The mind is just surrounding here and there for no reason. Suddenly remember something, suddenly go here and there. One old man was asking this question. Swamiji, sometimes I feel so miserable. What? I don't know where from the thoughts come. I say, why, what happened? See, the thoughts have no meaning. I have no problem of any kind. Everything is perfectly all right. Therefore, I thought now if everything is all right, I should be able to do meditation. I sit for meditation. And all kinds of funny thoughts start. One day when I was sitting, a thought came. Where is that kalpana? I said, which kalpana? When I was going in the KG, there used to be another girl along with me in the class. So that time this fellow must have been 3-4 years. Now he has become old, 70 years old. Do you think that she is remaining that only or what? She has also changed. Now see, that particular impression in the mind must have been so deep that it will come uncontrolled. That is called the kshipta bhumika of the chitta. The mind is throwing uncontrolled, meaningless, random thoughts, kshipta. Second is the moodha, the mind is dull-witted. Third is vikshipta, the mind is obsessed. You must have seen, suppose somebody has said you something. Somebody has insulted you. Somebody has treated you badly. And then the same thing again. But again. But why should it goes on again and again? That obsession with one particular theme disturbs the mind. That is called as vikshipta bhumika. Now, in these three bhumikas, when the mind is or the chitta is controlled, chitta vritti nirodha, then it is not the yoga. It is only a samadhi. Because this samadhi is what chitta vritti nirodha, but it cannot become yoga. And the moment the samadhi is over, again the originality, the running of the mind here and there, and then the dullness of the lifestyle or the obsession with the things will continue as it is. And therefore, this chitta vritti nirodha under these three conditions, kshipta, mood and vikshipta, is temporary and it is not permanent. So such people are erratic in their lifestyle. Sometimes, they are very good. Next moment, they are extremely angry and frustrated. Third time, they are very dull-witted. So this change in the moods is only because they have been practicing chitta vritti nirodha under these three conditions of the mind. Now, and in this way, there is no possibility of liberation unless the mind is relieved of these three conditions. And therefore, all the sadhana which is done for controlling the mind without taking care of the kshipta mood, vikshipta bhumika, is a simply wastage of time. It is something like that, A person went to the doctor and said, "Doctor, will you please help me, I am putting a lot of weight, what should I do?" So the doctor says, "Okay, take this food and it should help you. This is your diet." After 3 months he comes double. What happened? Whatever you have told me I was eating that. It cannot. You tell everything. So I have to finish first of all my meal, normal meal, and then eat what you have given. So in the same manner, this mind which is kshipta, mood and vikshipta, with that mind you do the meditation. Now what will happen is only the tragedy. Therefore, there is no possibility of any yoga or attainment through this kind of mechanical and strong control of mind attaining or leading to Samadhi. Now, the next step. When the chitta is in the ekagra bhumika, so we have seen the 5 stages: kshipta, mudha, vikshipta, ekagra and niruddha. 5. So what is the ekagra? Ekagra means what? That the mind is having the freedom. Please understand. Vikshipta is also ekagra. When you are obsessed with something, it is ekagrata. But that obsession is a bondage. It is not a freedom. See? Somebody is obsessed with cleanliness. So it is ekagrata, you know. It is great, no doubt. But that ekagrata is a bondage. Now, ekagra chitta bhumika means what? One has the freedom to apply the mind to the given job for a required length of time with total freedom. That is called as chittasya ekagra bhumika. That is the ekagra bhumika of the chitta. So, when the chitta vritti nirodha yogaha, when the thought process is suspended in this ekagra bhumika of the chitta, then rajasic and tamasic vrittis are completely stopped. See? Because what is the ekagra bhumika? Rajas and tamas are no more operating. And maybe very little traces of them, if they are there, they are also quietened when you do chitta vritti nirodha in this ekagra bhumika. Now see what is the meaning of ekagra bhumika and the influence of these 3 gunas. The freedom to apply the mind to a given job is the job of the sattva guna. See, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the dhruti, dhrutya yaya dharayate mana pranendriya kriya. So that dhruti by which we are able to hold all the modifications of the mind, prana, etc., that is called as the sattvic dhruti. So this sattva guna is the one wherein the chitta becomes ekagra. However, there may be few traces of rajas and tamas. Now those traces of rajas and tamas, they are also completely erased when we do the chitta vritti nirodha of the mind under the ekagra bhumika. And therefore, in this, the chitta is exclusively sattva vritti. And there is no doubt for such a person about anything. Because he is now established in the satvritti. See, the truth is declared, yes. How it is? See, what is called as Rutambhara Prajnaya. Rutambhara Prajnaya is Vyutpannamati. Vyutpannamati is what? The ability to know and recognize many things simultaneously, instantaneously. That is called as the sattvic vritti. And because of this exclusive sattvic vritti, the knowledge about everything is without any doubt and simultaneous. And therefore, this samadhi is called as Samprajnayat Samadhi. Samyak prajnayate asmin iti samprajnayataha samadhi. So, samadhi is that wherein samyak prajnayate, prajnayate clearly understood, jnayate and prajnayate. When the understanding is distinctly clear without any trace of doubt, samshaya or viparyaya, both are not there. And such a knowledge is possible under this condition of the samadhi. Therefore, this is called as Samprajnayat Samadhi. So, the Samprajnayat Samadhi is the sattvic state of the chitta vritti. We are still in the vritti. We are not yet gone beyond the vritti. So, in this Samadhi, when one is established in this Samadhi, then Purusha and Prakriti, these two are clearly, distinctly and perfectly recognized. Oh, this is what is called as Purusha and this is what is called as the Prakriti. So this is called as Viveka Khyati. The discrimination between Purusha and Prakriti takes place in this Samprajnayat Samadhi. And when the discrimination between Purusha Prakriti becomes perfect, then with this Viveka Khyati, one is able to proceed to the liberation, wherein the Prakriti is discarded and the Purush is recognized as independent of the influence of the Prakriti. And therefore this Samprajnayat Samadhi becomes the cause of liberation, and therefore this alone is called as the Samprajnayat Yoga. So you got the difference between these two words, Samadhi and the Yoga. So every yoga has to have Samadhi, but every Samadhi need not be yoga. Because if the Samadhi is in the earlier three conditions of the mind, Kshipta, Mudha, Vikshipta, it cannot be called as yoga. But when the Samadhi is in the Ekagra Chitta Bhumika, then the Purusha Prakriti Viveka is clear. Now see, Purusha Prakriti Viveka can be possible only when we are predominantly, necessarily, exclusively Sattvic. There is no Rajas, no agitations. There is no Tamas, no Mudhatva. So Kshipta and Vikshipta, when these two things are not there, Rajas is quietened. When Mudha is not there, Tamas is quietened. Then in the Ekagra Bhumika of the mind, when the Samadhi takes place, one is able to clearly, distinctly recognize what is the meaning of the Purusha and the Prakriti. This is called a Viveka Khyati. What we call in Vedanta Shastra as the Nitya Vivekaha, discrimination. Now, this Viveka Khyati is required for the ultimate liberation. Because once this is known, what is the meaning of Purusha, what is the meaning of Prakriti, and then Prakriti being the modifications changing and the continuously undergoing modification, so this I cannot be, and therefore the Purusha alone I can be. In this manner, this Samadhi becomes the cause of the liberation of the moksha, and therefore the Samprajnayat Samadhi is also called as Samprajnayat Yoga. And this Samprajnayat Yoga is attained through 4 stages. These 4 stages will take in detail subsequently. Now we simply note down the names. One is Vitarkanugata Samprajnayat Yoga. Second is Vicharanugata Samprajnayat Yoga. Third is Anandanugata Samprajnayata Yoga, and the fourth is Asmitanugata Samprajnayata Yoga. Ram, 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 Ram. So, we attain the Viveka Khyati first to Vitarka. Inquiry, discrimination, logic, reason. Second is Vicharanugata. Then our Chitta Vritti becomes clear of all doubts, and Purusha Prakriti is clearly understood. Then Anandanugata, when the doubts are freed, one is in the stage of bliss. And the last one, all these 3 earlier, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, they fall in the purview of the thoughts or the Prakriti. And Asmitanugata, then Asmita, that I-ness, the Purusha. When one comes to recognize the self, who is illuminating all the modifications of the mind, etc., that is Asmitanugata Samprajnayata Yoga. And in this stage only, Viveka Khyati becomes perfect. So the discrimination attains fulfillment only when we are in this state of Viveka Khyati, in this Asmitanugata Samprajnayata Samadhi. Now, when this Samprajnayat Samadhi is practiced, what happens? All the Klesha Karma Samskar, So these kleshas and the karma samskar, they will be slowly weakened and destroyed. And as more and more you practice this Samprajnayat Samadhi, the earlier samskar and the klesha, they start weakening, and our viveka khyati, our discrimination becomes stronger and firmer and without any doubt whatsoever. See, if you observe, now you are here for almost 1.5 to 2 years. What understanding you had when you came here about the spiritual life? And as you have gone through the various texts of understanding, see that understanding is changing. And with the change in the understanding, our approach to meditation, approach to life, approach to everything also changes. And the same thing happens in the case of the Samprajnayat Samadhi. When Purusha Prakriti Viveka is there, and then you are practicing Samprajnayat Samadhi, so the Prakriti is kept quiet, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. As a result, all the original inherent samskar, they also start dying away. Just like roasting of the seeds. When the seeds are roasted, they are not left with any potentiality to create the next generation of plants. In the same manner, by this Aspitanugata Samprajnayat Samadhi, all the karma samskar are burnt away, and this is why it is called as Dharma Megha Samadhi. You remember in the 9th chapter of Panchadashi, we have seen this word, Dharma Megha Samadhi, where all the thoughts and the samskar, they are burnt away. And as a result, the yogi is now living his life. He is not dead, but there are no samskar. And such a samskar rahita, the impression less or the burdenless experience of being is called as Jivan Mukti, liberation while alive. And for this Jivan Mukta Purush, the prarabdha karma is still there. Don't forget about this. This is the basic difference we will see subsequently. So his sanchita and the agami karmas, they are burnt away by this asmitanugata samprajnat yoga or the samadhi. He is the sanchita kriyamana karma samskar vasana, they are all burnt away. However, that because of which the present body has started, those prarabdha karma samskar, they are not burnt away. So this Jivan Mukta Purush continues to live in that body as long as those prarabdha karmas are there. And bhogateva prarabdha phala or the prarabdha karma kshaya. So he has to go through all the prarabdha. And this is how, after he discards the body, he is called as liberated after the body fallen. Therefore, Videha Mukti. So first he is Jivan Mukta and then he is Videha Mukta. So this is how this Samprajnayat Samadhi or Samprajnayat Yoga helps us in attainment of the liberation. And therefore every Samadhi is not great. It has to be Aspitanugata Samprajnayat Samadhi. Now, there is second Samadhi, that is called as the Asamprajnayat Samadhi. Now, this Asamprajnayat Samadhi is also of two types. One is Bhava Pratyaya Asamprajnayat Samadhi, and second is Upaya Pratyaya Asamprajnayat Samadhi. Now, in this Asamprajnayat Samadhi, there is only one difference, basic one difference. And what is that one basic one difference? That even the sattvic thought is erased. There is no even sattva vritti also. Therefore, this Asamprajnayat Samadhi is Aparokshanubhuti, or in the language of the Vedanta Shastra, this is called as Brahmatmaikya Bodha. Now in this Samprajnayat Samadhi, what happens? That this is a very subtle point. When we study in detail, we will go more. Now just listen. If you don't catch it, never mind. Here what happens, when you are practicing this Samprajnayat Samadhi, there will be impressions on the mind or the samskar on the mind, which are the prarabdha samskar. Now this prarabdha samskar are also burnt away. See, prarabdha samskar are not burnt away in the Samprajnayat Samadhi. It is in the Samprajnayat Samadhi, prarabdha samskar also burnt away. Why? Because the thoughts are zero. And because there are no thoughts, there is no knowledge. And because there is no knowledge, therefore Samprajnayat. So one has attained oneness with the absolute consciousness. Now this absolute consciousness, there is nothing like knowledge and ignorance. Knowledge and ignorance are possible only at the level of thought. Because knowledge and ignorance, they are nothing but pairs of opposite, like joy and sorrows, knowledge and ignorance. So all that is transcended in this Samprajnayat Samadhi, and therefore in this Samadhi there is no thought knowledge. It is a thought-free experience of being, and therefore even if there are some samskar in the mind, etc., doesn't matter. One has already gone beyond the mind, no more thoughts, and those samskars are roasted, they are burnt away, and therefore even the prarabdha samskar cannot have any effect on that. And as a result of this Samprajnayat Samadhi, these great yogis, they attain that status, various divine powers start manifesting in them, and they take the position of the gods. So devatva prapti they have, and in whatever yonis they are, in that yoni their condition is maintained in this manner. This Samprajnayat Samadhi is the one where the devatva is there, and that is never destroyed. So the next birth is there, but the devatva continues to be there. Therefore they are called as the Bhava Samadhi, Bhava Samprajnayat Samadhi, because there is continuation of life. Now here this Bhava Samadhi is not with the Viveka Khyati, and therefore although one has attained so much, yet Viveka Khyati is not perfect. But that Samprajnayat Samadhi, which was Viveka Khyati Yukta, when that leads to the Samprajnayat Samadhi, then it is the cause of the liberation. And therefore this Samprajnayat Samadhi, which is Upaya Pratyaya Samprajnayat Samadhi. First was Bhava Pratyaya, second is Upaya Pratyaya. So in this, it becomes the means for attainment of the Samprajnayat Samadhi or the Samprajnayat Yoga. This is how these two Samadhis are called as the Yoga. Now the greatness of this Samprajnayat Samadhi is that because of the Viveka Khyati perfectly, without any doubt whatsoever, this Samprajnayat Yoga, why it is required to be done if Viveka Khyati has given everything in the Samprajnayat Yoga? Because here the sadhak has come to know the fickleness, the disturbances, the knowledge in the buddhi, and he is someone other than that. So here there is one very subtle point. What is called as Vairagya? One is Apara Vairagya, second is Para Vairagya. Apara Vairagya is the dispassion about all that which is gained through thoughts. This is called Apara Vairagya, lower kind of Vairagya. So what is gained through thoughts? Worldly objects, the information about the heavens and the Indralok and the Brahmalok. This is we have gained only through the thoughts. And what is Para Vairagya? Even the thoughts are rejected. So when there is no obsession or attachment even to a single thought in the mind, so that thought freedom is called as Paravairagya. And in this Asamprajnayat Samadhi, when this Paravairagya takes place, the Purusha is able to recognize his immaculate purity and freedom from all modification, that he is only pure conscious being. And therefore, this Asamprajnayat Samadhi, which is the Upaya Pratyaya Samprajnayat Samadhi, is the real one, and this is the ultimate, and it is other than the Bauddhika Jnana, the knowledge gained through the thoughts, what is seen in the Samprajnayat Samadhi. And in this manner, having reached this Asamprajnayat Samadhi, the Viveka Khyati, the discrimination between Purusha and Prakriti, is absolute. There is no doubt whatsoever. And in this condition, all the karma, sarvam karma khilam partha yoge parisamapyate or jnane parisamapyate, because Viveka Khyati is complete. And in this manner, these two, Asamprajnayat Yoga and Samprajnayat Yoga, both are the means of attainment with the absolute reality. So in this Asamprajnayat Yoga, ultimately what happens? This Purusha is able to recognize his own essential conscious self, and therefore the medium of thoughts is not required. So this is the immediate knowledge, not the mediate knowledge, because the medium of thought is totally absent. And therefore, in this Asamprajnayat Samadhi, one transcends the Samprajnayat Yoga also, and he is now absolutely pure consciousness. Therefore, this is said in the 13th chapter of Gita, Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So body is the Kshetra, the knower of the body is Kshetrajna. But the knower of the body can become Kshetrajna if the body is. If the body is discarded totally, as in Asamprajnayat Samadhi, he is no more a Kshetrajna. Then what is he? He is Jnapti Matra, Jna alone. The pure consciousness alone is the ultimate experience in this Asamprajnayat Yoga. And when this Asamprajnayat Yoga becomes stronger and stronger, we go through the practice, then the Chitta goes back in its own cause, Prakriti, and Prakriti Rahita Purusha, or Purusha in whom the Prakriti is totally become unmanifest, is attained. And this is the last step in the Yoga Sadhana. This is how this Yoga Abhyasa is ultimately taking us to the realization of the truth. Now see, what is the picture of the Yoga Abhyasa, Yoga Sadhana, and what you see in the whole world. So they are happy. Wait, do this thing, your back will become all right. Hare Ram, Ram, Ram. Reduce the weight. That's why when this yoga is used for health, Patanjali Maharshi must be turning in his grave. I did not do it for that. To get out of the body identification, have the Purusha Prakriti Viveka Khyati, and discover that you are that immaculate Purusha. Now, what are the means of the Yoga Sadhana? As we have seen in the first pada itself, Samadhi pad, what are the means? Abhyasa Vairagya. So, the primary means of Yoga Abhyasa is Abhyasa and the Vairagya. And the Vairagya is of two types. I just now told you, Apara Vairagya and Para Vairagya. Apara Vairagya is regarding the attainments or the things or the enjoyments of this world or the other world. And the Para Vairagya is one goes beyond the thought knowledge. It's so simple, What is the thought knowledge? Anything which is gained through the thought is objective. So Paravairagya is when the objectivity from the knowledge is fully erased. And therefore, this knowledge cannot be even called as the subjective knowledge. It becomes subjective, it becomes introvert only with reference to the extrovert. So in Aparavairagya, the thoughts are totally discarded. This thought-free experience is called as the Paravairagya. So in this Paravairagya, Bauddhika Jnana, that is why Nanudhyayan Bahun Shabdan Vacho Viglapanam Hitat. One should not get lost only in reading and studying and arguments and knowing. No. Ultimately, we have to go beyond the Bauddha Pratyaya, beyond the thought knowledge. And when this Paravairagya becomes more and more prominent, we enter Asamprajnayat Samadhi or Asamprajnayat Yoga. And therefore, to practice this again and again, to take the mind in the Samprajnayat Samadhi, then from there Asamprajnayat Samadhi or Asamprajnayat Yoga, this practice is called as Abhyasa. So we try to keep the mind undisturbed, steady, without any disturbances, without becoming dull. That is called as Abhyasa. And this Abhyasa is done through this Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So these are the 8 limbs through which we are able to attain the control of the mind and ultimately go stage by step. See, first Yama has to be perfected. Mahavrataha. Remember, there is one word Mahavrataha, it comes. When this, which are the 5 Yamas? Tell loudly. You know, Swamiji, what is there to tell? Huh? No. So you find out, I will not tell. Huh? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Aparigraha and हो गए 5? Okay. So first we get established in the Yama Sadhana. This will take us to the next Niyama Sadhana. When Niyama Sadhana is perfected, we go to the Asana. From there to Pranayam, from there to Pratyahara, from there to Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. And Samadhi is first, it is the Samprajnayat Samadhi, and then even these thoughts are discarded. It becomes Asamprajnayat Samadhi or the Asamprajnayat Yoga. These are the 8 limbs through which we progress on the path of self-realization through Yoga Shastra. Hereafter, what is the foundation of Yoga Shastra? What is the principal philosophy? That is the next topic we will take in our next class. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.